name is Isha Zen. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the 6th edition of Business Excellence Summit at the Xavier's Institute of Management, Exide University, Bhubaneswar. This year, we are raising the bar with the theme, Redefining Possibilities. As the business landscape undergoes rapid transformation, we believe that now is the time to change and challenge conventions and explore new horizons. With utmost reverence and admiration, it is my honor to introduce Mr. Richard Lobo, sir, a visionary leader who has shaped the future of human resources and left a lasting impact on the business world. A distinguished member of Exide University's Bhubaneswar's class of 1996, Sir also holds a Bachelor of Engineering degree in Mechanical Engineering from Manipal Institute of Technology. Today, Richard Sir returns to Exide, his alma mater, where he once walked the very halls that now welcome him back as a distinguished guest. Richard Sir's illustrious career spans well over 2 decades, during which he has transformed the HR landscape of some of the world's leading organizations. Currently, as the Chief People Officer of Tech Mahindra, his leadership philosophy centers on empowerment, innovation, and building a future-ready culture. And Richard Sir has positively impacted over 150,000 employees worldwide. Before taking on his current role at Tech Mahindra, Richard Sir had an extraordinary journey at Infosys, where he spent nearly 23 years. Richard Sir rose to become the Executive Vice President and Head of Human Resources at Infosys. He also served as a strategic advisor to India's economic startup ecosystem, guiding companies like Baiju's on people strategies and driving transformation on sustainable growth. Sir's accomplishments were so impactful and groundbreaking that in 2023, Richard Sir was named HR Leader of the Year by the Economic Times. He has also been recognized as one of the top 10 best Chief People Officers in India for 2024 by TradeFlock. His involvement in industry bodies like CII and NASSCOM solidifies his role as a leading figure in human resources. Beyond his accolades, Richard Sir remains a humble mentor, eager to share his knowledge with future leaders. Passionate about nurturing young talent, he regularly engages with academia, teaching at leading management institutes. We hope to be included in that list as well, sir. Oh, and by the way, Sir's new literary brilliance, Humans at Work, is dropping tomorrow. It's a must-read for all the young professionals like us. It's a must-read for all the young professionals like us who are eager to create people-first workplaces where empathy, collaboration, and a bit of tech magic come together. So, your journey from XIMB to becoming a global HR leader is truly inspiring. If every one of us can learn and achieve half as much as you, we'll consider ourselves lucky. To be able to refer to you as our alum is our deepest privilege. We are thrilled and honored to have you here today, sir. The flow of events is such that we'll have a speaker talk, which will be followed by a moderated question and answer session by our faculty moderator. The moderator for today's event is Professor Francis Castellino, Associate Dean, Career Advisory Services. Thank you so much for moderating the session, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all await to be enlightened with Sir's talk on reshaping leadership in tech, what MBAs need to know. With a huge round of applause, please join me in giving a grand welcome to Richard Lobo, sir.
Morning, folks. Did somebody wake you up and force you to come here? Yeah. So I woke up at 6 in the morning and I walked around. I met a dog. It's the only person available at that time. So you know you're already in trouble when your introduction is longer than the speech. So thank you for that long one. I don't promise that the speech will be as interesting, but what I hope will be interesting is that I want to spend a lot of time with you answering your questions. So that's how we will take it, because I've always found that that is more interesting than me talking about what I might think you might want to know versus what you really want to know. And considering that this is a campus I spent many hours in, I'm perfectly okay to take any questions you might have on anything. I may not necessarily have answers to everything, but no topic is off limits. So you can feel free to, as long as it's a learning experience, it's fine. Okay. And now that I'm not really part of the influence, I don't even have to worry too much about the media, because what I say now, nobody's interested in anyway. So the topic given was leadership in tech, and then I tried to figure out what I could talk about it. So I have four distinct areas I'm going to cover on different aspects. They're connected, but not necessarily in order or in line. The first idea, and these are actually ideas I'm going to leave it before you so that you can explore and think beyond. The first is, I think we are living in a period of uncertainty. And that's not a bad thing. Okay? Many great things in the world have happened through periods of uncertainty. And uncertainties happen through human civilization over a period of time, so it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a complex thing. It's difficult to handle the situation. Now, and why are these periods of uncertainty? Distinctly, I think there are five. There could be more. The first is the shifts that are happening in the space of technology. And I think more than at any point in time, since I have at least remember, there has been so much shift in technology so rapidly. And almost every 6 months, something is happening which kind of forces you to think whether this is something you should invest in, not invest in, learn, not learn, you don't know. So people talk about artificial intelligence. I have actually not seen a single brochure of any tech company these days which doesn't talk about artificial intelligence. Most of them don't even know what they're talking about, but they will mention to the extent that even your real estate broker is now talking about AI. So this is one thing which is happening, and all this started really with the launch of the smartphone, right? So we see this accelerated change in the pace of technology, and I think the real pivot to this was putting processing power in your pocket. And I was talking to, you might have heard about this individual. His name is Professor Sadatopan. He used to teach computer science at IIT Kanpur for many years and considered as pioneer in India's comp industry. And I was having an interesting chat with him. He's saying he used to run the computer center at IIT Kanpur many years ago, and the entire processing power at his disposal was 256 GB, which is roughly what you carry in your pocket today. And he had to distribute it to all the students at IIT, India's premier computing. I mean, at least for comp science, that was the place to work. So that's the kind of acceleration in change in tech shifts which are happening. So I don't know which way AI will go versus which way whether it will go the ERP way, whether it will go some other way, we don't know. But whatever it is, all of you will be forced to deal with this rapid implications of the technological shift. So keep this as the first idea. The second is, I think, the changes in business models. And we are seeing a very, very rapid shift in business models. So, for example, whether people will own cars or whether they will just lease cars. While Uber and the others disrupted how you use an automobile, I think much more is going to happen in terms of whether we need to own everything we use. Another parallel example is engines which you see in the planes which we use. No airline owns engines anymore. In fact, the Indian companies don't own engines anymore, which is even funnier. So they actually lease them by the amount of. I was talking to somebody in Air India a couple of months back, and he said it pays based on how much power the engine consumes per flight. So the pilot is under severe restriction as to how much thrust you should apply, those kind of things. So and the engine company charges you, if you apply more thrust, they charge you more because the engine gets worn out more. This is which couldn't have happened without the first point. That technology today makes it possible for you to monitor an engine. So if a plane is flying over the Atlantic today, even before it lands wherever it's supposed to land, the engine company has figured out if there's a problem. If there's a problem, they could have the parts ready. So unbelievable things are happening because technology has made it possible. And that will lead to a shift in the business model. And I'm not even talking to the shift of the Netflix versus Blockbuster kind of days, those kind of shifts. This is going to be much, much more different. The third one, which is even more concerning, is global geopolitical shifts. I think global geopolitical shifts is something which we all need to worry about. Not that we can do much about it, but we need to think about it, because while the Ukraine conflict is very obvious, it's kind of a proxy war, there's another proxy war happening in the Middle East. And then you have conflicts which nobody even paying attention to, like what's happening in Sudan. What could potentially happen across the Hormuz Strait if China decides to get active versus Taiwan? It put the entire world technological supply chain out of order. What happens to the shipping lanes if somebody decides to close the Suez Canal tomorrow because of conflict? So these are all things which you will have to deal with, and we don't know which. This will have huge impact on companies. It will have huge impact on the way we do business. So this is the third thing. The fourth is, I think, the way we inhabit the planet, and this is something which it's both a source of comfort, because I see the generation getting into the workforce today much more conscious and much more interested in the environment than the previous generation was. But I think the damage and the impact that you've done to the world is something that's going to take us a long time to fix. And I'm giving you from practical examples. I was in Texas in summer, and it was 50-degree heat. So if you walk out, your shoes will melt. So how does the human body operate in such kind of environments? And if we go to continue our model of doing damage to the planet, many of the cities and locations we live in today and work in today will not be accessible to us. And that's unfortunately a problem which there is no easy solution. And everybody pretends it is somebody else's problem. So I think that's the fourth point which is going to make an impact. And the last one is the human. I see in the course of my work the stresses and strains on individuals because of various things: mental wellness, physical wellness, pandemics, so on and so forth. And I think while human bodies are extremely resilient, I think paying attention to ourselves and how we work is going to be a very important factor. So this period of uncertainty, and these five things I talked about: the shifts in technology, the shifts in business model, the geopolitical landscape, the way we inhabit the planet, and finally how we take care of ourselves. And how we balance this will make a difference to the way we thrive in the next 20, 30 years. And that's, of course, the sphere of interest for you folks. Of course, I'm fairly sure by the time you come to the age I am in today, the work stage in India would have moved. Definitely by 10 years or so. So you will be working much longer than I will have a chance to work, but that's what you have to worry about. So how do I have a career spanning 30 years or so where I flourish and I thrive? So this is the whole aspect of how you balance, and I think this whole concept is how you balance these different forces to arrive at some kind of equilibrium which makes sense. So because of this, the whole concept of leadership as we have got used to will change, and it has to change. And much of this is not really discovered. It is something which we have to discover in the future. So we had and we still have, so it's not like it's gone out of our minds, is that we still think of, and go back to what you're thinking right now. You think that at some point in time I will sit through placements, I will get placed in a company which is reasonably well known, which pays well, and I look forward to this period of stability. Unfortunately, that period of stability will not exist, because that company itself will go through these problems or challenges I spoke about. And all our focus still now, and nothing to do with this group of people, but all of us included, even in any other business school across this country or outside this country, would be on maximizing, right? We wanted to maximize wealth. That means you get a salary which you think you should get. Probably you do not deserve, but what you think you should get. Secondly, how do I move up quickly up the hierarchy and become whatever I want to be Will I have a better office next year? Will I join a company with a bigger brand and so on and so forth? It is all a question of maximizing. And companies also operated in this concept of maximizing. Every year you give returns which are better than the previous year to your shareholders, you increase your revenue, you increase your margins. It is all we focus on maximizing, and we have all been taught and even are being taught today with this concept of maximizing. And if you take any business school curriculum, it always talks about how do you maximize, right? And that is something which we now need to think. There is no, I'm not saying tomorrow that maximizing is going to go away. Because I think I'm not here to preach as some guru or something like that. The idea is maximizing will continue, but how do you think differently is that? How do you keep our future outlook into a very different concept? How do we make it more of adaptability? How do we change with the issues that are going to happen? Is maximizing the only goal? How do we have consciousness beyond the returns we need to give? How do you unleash the collective energy of each person working in the organization? How do you stop people from being extremely frustrated to people who are becoming part of the endeavor? How do you collaborate with your competition to create interesting products? How do you reimagine? How do you allow for failure? What if somebody tries something and it is a spectacular disaster? How do you come back and try again? How do you handle different kinds of people who work in organizations? The people who perform, the people who do not perform. So many of these things are going to be a very integral part of the leadership of the future. So in my mind, the definition of leadership will change from being those giant leaders of the past, those people we used to put on pedestals, to being more of a networking. A leader succeeds because their network succeeds. Their collective group of people around them contribute to leadership. And I think that is the big concept which is going to dominate at least the way you will face the leadership world, because this huge, larger than life leaders of the past will largely go on, and they are not really have a place in the sun today. Of course, they make a lot of noise in the sense of they tweet a lot and then they have opinions on various things. But I think other than that, I think companies do not run on this personality cult of leadership, because the most successful companies, and you can feel free to do this study later if you have the time for it, most successful companies, you will struggle to find who their CEO is. And I want to leave you with that message. Most successful companies, you will not know who their CEO is. The CEOs who say they are successful may not necessarily be running companies which are very successful. I just leave this point to thinking. And that is the whole issue of the leadership of the future. That would have been an average. So that first part is done. So we move to the second one. So when I do yeah, it's not all right. Continuing this whole concept of the leadership of the future, I want to talk about some shifts which are happening, and I just placed them before you. If you can't remember them, don't worry too much. It's not a very important point, but I think it's in line of what I spoke about. So the first is requirement, and these are all requirements of people who lead, and all of you will lead at some place or the other, right? Today you might be leading some committee or something, tomorrow you might be leading a small team, you might end up leading a larger team, so on and so forth. So whatever it is, I think the first shift is from management or being a manager to being somebody who's visionary and can see the future. And again, this is not a visionary in the idea of something very fun. Because you're trained to manage, and that is why that definition is, right? You have a set of resources and you manage it. That really doesn't hold good anymore, because if you're looking for a job which is of managing, you will get a job. There is no shortage of such job. But whether this job is really will take you where you need to go, Probably not. So you need to think beyond managing those finite resources and ensuring things go in a particular order or fashion. The second is the concept of planning versus being an architect, and this is very important concept because institutes, for example, like exam, wouldn't have existed if not for the people who architected the future. They said, okay, we will take this city, an empty piece of land, and create a management institute of excellence. That is architecture. You think beyond the normal, and there are very few people who can do that. And that moves you away from things that exist, but you think of the future. When I was studying engineering, and there was this story which was talked about by the founder of the entire university, Dr. Pai, and they talked about the time, and this was 50 years much before I was born, that he took this hill which nobody wanted, and he said, we'll create this institution here. And people laughed at him because there is not even water there, there's nothing, a blade of grass doesn't grow, and you want to create an institution. And today, if you go to that place, you will not believe what has happened. Right? Some of its colleges are ranked within the top 10 in the country. Why? Because somebody saw a vision beyond the possibility of the present to the future, and you architected a vision of the future. The other concept is structure and hierarchy versus a collaborative enterprise. And we did this study, and I just give you an example of a study we did 2 years back. We took the organization which I was part of that time, and we ran a kind of a network analysis. And I'll tell you what we did. We just analyzed the various data points which flew from the network. We figured out who gets the most chat traffic, who gets the more attention when they post something on the network, who is accessed or reached more in terms of technical queries, etc. And we created a map of the organization. It looked like a network. Some nodes were more powerful, some nodes were less powerful, and in network you always have nodes. There are nodes which attract more traffic, there are nodes which attract less traffic. And we found that this network was very different from the org chart. And that was a big learning for us, because we thought, okay, you are the manager's manager, and so forth, and that's how the flow works. And then we actually did the analysis of how organization works. We found that it was very different, and that was a big revelation for us. Saying that the hierarchy really is not what actually happens. And I'm sure you will find the same when you go to whichever company you're going to join tomorrow. You'll find that there is a defined org chart, and then there is an undefined network. And undefined networks are getting more and more important, because in times of technical problems, or you want to solve an important issue, the network will send you to a particular direction. Companies which can figure this out do better than companies who cannot figure it out. And I think the last point is between the professional and the human phase. So many times I spend a lot of time talking to people who have questions on their career or where they're going, and more importantly on managers you don't like working with. And there are plenty. Okay, there are many people who make life very difficult for people because they behave in a way that which removes the human element at work. And I think more than normal, I think it's a message to all of you that when you take on these positions, treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think forget everything else and remember this from my speech. It's fine for me, because I think the world needs more and more managers who bring the human element into the workplace. So I think we have reached a stage where we move beyond profit to creating an impact. And you will find that there will be more and more talk about this. Today it's a very, very early noise which is happening in the business press and in articles. That will change for the better the way we work and the world of work. So that's the second thought I wanted to leave you with. You want a break or should I continue? You're bored already? Okay. This is full of some stories now. Okay. This is the third part. So in October 2018, there was a flight which took off from Jakarta, the Lion Air flight, and just a few minutes after takeoff, it crashed into the sea. It was a very brand new plane which Boeing had launched. This was a 737 MAX. In March of, and people didn't really spend enough time figuring out why the plane went into the sea. There were all sorts of theories and pilot error and a new plane, people didn't know how to control it, so on and so forth. Then in March of 2019, an Ethiopian plane crashed under very similar circumstances just after takeoff. And that time suddenly everybody woke up saying you can't have two such similar situations happening on the same plane. And then they launched a big check. And after every air crash, there's a lot of work which happens to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Because that is what makes flying safer than probably driving. And then they found that there's a very strange thing which Boeing had done. And Boeing is a very iconic company. And for any of you who have ever had a chance to visit Seattle, you will see so next to the Seattle airport's main runway, you have the Boeing runway, which has equivalent large runway. So Boeing operates its own airfield and it's such an iconic company. And they have done this fundamental decision. I wouldn't call it error, it's a decision that they were under pressure from Airbus. And Airbus had launched this A321neo, and the A321neo does two things. One is it's a little bigger, so it takes more passengers. Every company likes to take more passengers. Secondly, it's a little more fuel efficient than the previous model. And Boeing didn't have an equivalent, and most of their large customers had told them that if you don't have an equivalent, we'll shift to Airbus. And they took a shortcut, so they took their existing 737 framework and just made it longer. And then they found that when they made it longer, it was not a very stable thing because it behaved very oddly because of its length. And so they put a computer control system to compensate for this larger airframe. They fundamentally should have redesigned the airframe, but there wasn't enough time and they took the shortcut. And that computer system is what caused both these air crashes to happen because they fixed those issues. But it's a decision which you take, right? It's a normal course of business. Now, I'm not saying the decision I or you take tomorrow will have as much implication on human life, but these are decisions we take, and we always have to be conscious of what this, how this will impact the company, people, and the larger world. Another example, Volkswagen, again a very iconic automobile manufacturer, did something very strange. So during emission tests, some bright person in the company, and every company has bright people, right? That's what frightens me actually. Figured that they could predict when this car was on a test bed. Test bed means it's not on the road, it's on the rollers. And anybody who worked in the auto industry will see that testing is done on, you create these rollers and you run the car on that. So the car could figure out when it was in a roller and when it was not. So it gave very different results based on where it was. So it said all pollution parameters are under check when it is on a test condition, and on the road it behaved differently because the computer controlled the output. Of course, somebody found out one day or the other. All these things get found out, and they of course had to pay a lot of money in damages and fines. And I think the CEO almost went to jail, if I'm not mistaken. Boeing, meanwhile, has done a settlement with the US government saying that they escaped criminal liability and they will pay a fine. Another example was, in October 21. Anybody heard of a name called Francis Haugen? Francis Haugen, no? Memories are short. Francis Haugen was an employee of Facebook, now known as Meta. And she testified, she was a whistleblower, she testified before the US Congress, mainly on the 2020 elections. 2019 elections. And also on how the fact that the algorithm which ran Facebook at that point, and they have to change it now, operated. So if you are a person who likes certain kind of theories, it fed you more information on those theories. So it made a lot of possibilities by just feeding you with more information of the rubbish you wanted to see. And it was bad for kids, it was bad for adults, it was bad for everybody. But the point was they knew about it and they thought it was a good idea because it got more people to their side. So these are full of, these are of course US examples, but then I have similar examples from India. And I will talk about 3 companies I have been associated with. Okay. not with somebody else's. The first, of course, was a company which today is a part of the company I am working for now, and this is called Satyam Computers. At that point in time, was a fairly well-known brand, was doing very well, and at some point in time, there was a letter which the CEO, then CEO, wrote to the shareholders saying that the results which we are giving are fictional. The profit and the revenue you see didn't exist. It was all a created one. And then a whole lot of people went into trouble because of that. Okay? And then, of course, I know much of the story because now I work in Tech Mahindra, which is also part of the legacy. Satyam is part of its company. And it shows how much time and effort it took not only to repair that company, and thankfully it got revived, but also the damage it did to the larger Indian IT industry, because at that point in time, everybody looked at Indian IT in a very suspicious manner, and if Satyam hadn't been rescued, probably Indian IT industry story might have been different. In the sense, the clients across the world, especially the banks, would have treated us very, very differently. This is the first example. Second was an example which not too many people know today, and there was this company called Sahara India, and I used to sell to them. Okay, so I didn't directly work there. I used to sell. They were my clients. And that was another strange company because it at that point in time was one of the most popular and the brand to be associated with. And they were into everything. They were into a whole lot of things, real estate and television and entertainment, but their whole business was NBFCs. And I used to collect these funds across UP and Bihar and the northern part of India, and then promise people fantastic returns. And then at some point in time, this whole model was not sustainable, and then Sahara went to all sorts of issues of whose body is even now not fully known. And lastly, there's a company which a few months back I used to advise, is Baidu's. At one point in time, was worth $22 billion in terms of investor recognition of its potential, but it's worth nothing now. Again, a question of what your business model and how flawed it was in terms of how you ran it. But the whole point I wanted to make is that the business world is not that complex. As long as you go the straight and narrow path, but it can become extremely difficult for many others if you choose to take shortcuts and you choose to do different things. And I go back to something which a mentor or somebody I know very well told me once, is that there is no right way to do the wrong thing. If you take shortcuts to get certain scores in your exams, you take shortcuts to get placed, take some other shortcuts, it all adds up. At some point in time, you take one shortcut too many, and then things don't go the way you think they should go. So it's good idea to have an ethical map for yourself, and this you don't have to share with anybody else. Create an ethical map for yourself. And there are three dimensions you look at, right? First is your career, which of course you do various things, and many of these people in these examples I talk about did these things for their own career reason, because they didn't want to be seen to be failing. And many of these things you do, protecting revenues, giving wrong information, giving numbers which don't exist, is because you don't want to be seen as a failure. And in your own way, you will be questioned. You'll have to answer this question for yourself. Now, whether I take a shortcut and seen as a limited success, or I do the right thing and probably be seen as a failure for the time being, but eventually I will succeed. The second is your family and your circle, which is close to you. What will they think when these kind of things happen? And one of the things which you might have watched is the whole Sam Bankman-Fried trial in New York. Sam Bankman-Fried's parents were both professors at Stanford and extremely well respected faculty members of the institute. But both of them had to sit through the courtroom and see the kind of things which were being said about their son and the damage which it caused. And many people do say that they also had a big part of role to play because his father used to advise him on various aspects of the law, because both his parents were law professors. And this is many of these shortcuts were probably you thought you were too smart for your own good. And then of course we know what happened there. So I think the second is how that ethical map is what your actions, how do they impact the family. And the third one is what is the legacy you want to leave? Do you want to leave with the respect and the goodwill of people versus being seen as a success in the corporate world. And remember, the people who land up on Business Magazine this year might be in jail 2 years down the line. Serious. So when you become old enough, right, companies try to teach you new tricks. So you get into these executive education programs. So, and I've been sometimes lucky, sometimes unlucky to be at some of these. So I was in this program at Harvard last year. And among the various things they show is pictures on the screen, on the slide there. Okay, just like you have alumni pictures at the entrance. So they show and they ask you to guess. And you know what the answer to that guess? Anybody want to know? What? What are these pictures? These are pictures of students of Harvard Business School who went to jail. And this is quite a big number, okay? The world's best known, I mean, of course, there's always a matter of opinion which is better, but that's okay. But one of the better known business schools in the world, these are pictures of their alumni who went to jail. And they show it just so that you don't forget. And one of their professors who died recently, Clayton Christensen, and if you ever get a chance to read this book, it's called How Do You Measure Your Life? It's an amazing book on what is important for a young business leader. Of course, read my book also, that is a different issue. But so this is the third area I wanted to leave you with. And now that everybody looks sufficiently tired, the last part. So in and this is the conclusion part of what I wanted to say, is 1990, the Space Shuttle Discovery lifted off and placed the Hubble Space Telescope into orbit. It's been sending us images of galaxies, distant stars, planets, configurations right since then. And it opens up our view to amazing things which human eye has not seen before. Hubble Space Telescope is named after Edwin Hubble. And the credit of Hubble was that in 1929, while observing galaxies, he came out with a very interesting observation. Anybody knows? Any physics student knows what it is? No physics student, or even if you are, you don't want to say so. Okay. So Hubble discovered that when things shift away from us, the frequency of light shifts to the what? To the red. And when things come closer to us, the frequency of light shifts towards the blue. He called this the red shift. And red shift told us that the universe is expanding at a speed rapidly away from us. And today, in the world of work, we are dealing with the same concept. We are dealing with the red shift and blue shift. And I first spoke about this around 8-9 years back at a similar stage in IIM Bangalore, and people found it interesting. That's why I'm repeating this. Okay. So the world of work is shifting away from us. Technology, the speed of change, all those things I spoke about. The changes to the planet, everything is shifting away from us at a very, very rapid pace. So this is the red shift which is happening. So when a redshift happens, we need to keep the other part closer to us. That is, how do we behave at work? How do we interact with each other? How do we keep human collaboration going? We need to bring it closer to us. So we need the blue shift to make sense of the world of work. And by using the blue shift to balance the red shift, we can make sense of what is happening and probably have a career which is interesting, thriving, and successful. So my closing message to you is that use both concepts. Redshift will happen, but also use the concept of the blue shift to create that balance and be successful. So I'm going to stop now, and I don't know exactly, half an hour, not bad. That's what I promised yesterday. So we can do two things: we can close, or we can ask questions. Close? Don't want to close. Okay, so like I said before, the floor is open. There's no good question, bad question. There might be good answers and bad answers, but we'll see how it goes. I will use the parallel mic and move away from the. Right. Okay, cool. Can you hear me?
Good morning, sir. I'm Rishi from the 24-26 batch. I have a couple of questions, sir.
Yeah.
The first one is, in today's world of attrition, what do you think is a framework that we should decide if this organization is good for you or not? And second, what are the common characteristics that you see across your span of corporate career and high performing and high growth candidates in work?
I didn't get that question. Explain what is there.
Yes, sir. So in today's world, I mean, there's a lot of people who are quitting their jobs. There are a lot of layoffs that are happening, and a lot of people are shifting their jobs. So what do you think as when we are in a situation, when we are in a situation like whether we should continue this organization or to shift? What is the framework that you should have in your mind?
Okay. I don't think attrition is something you should worry about, okay? Because attrition happens, and some attrition is good, some attrition is not good. So why your friend is quitting has no relevance as to whether you should stay or not. So forget what other people do. Other people do whatever they want to do. It should not matter. So why should you stay in an organization? And these are what I would look at as a few points. One is, am I learning more today than I knew yesterday? Am I continuously learning? Am I a better person, a better either on technology or business or anything today versus what I was yesterday? So that's the first point. Second is, am I okay with the people I'm working with? Do I like those guys? I'm okay to spend time with them. I'm okay to engage with them. So second is whether I'm happy working with these people who I'm working with. And the last part is, of course, is it taking care of my what do you call the lower level of the national needs? Am I getting enough money? Am I doing okay in my career? So am I learning? Am I okay with to work with other folks that I engage? And third is, am I satisfying my basic needs? If all three is yes, please don't leave that place. For yourself. Now there is a second thing that is now is the largest circle of, is this company in the right direction? If tomorrow the company is heading nowhere, then even if this works, you might want to get out. So it's a combination of both, right? You need, is your view making sense? Secondly, is the company's larger direction making sense? Tomorrow if the business model is flawed, then please don't stay there, because if it's going to crash, then everything is going to crash. Whether you like working there, they're paying you a lot of money, so on and so forth. So sometimes I think we have to be aware of two things. One is on my personal front. Secondly, be also aware of the larger business context, whether it's business and something makes sense. And a good way to do that is to watch if it's a public company, to watch your stock. But that's not the only answer. But you know a lot of things in a company which people outside won't know. And if both are clicking, please don't leave that place. Because I get tired of these questions where people after 1 or 2 years think, oh, I interviewed somebody a few months back. Oh, I spent 3 years. You spent 3 years every day. What is 3 years in 30 years? Why should you leave? But nobody will listen to me. I'm saying this. I'm sure at least 70% of this group of people will leave their company within 3 years. So anyway, you can ignore what I say. Right, sir? Why? Because the friend said you stayed too long. Don't listen to your friends. They have no further role on your career than anybody else. Don't ask a random stranger on the street, right? Why should I stay in a company? Don't ask him. What is the second question?
What are the common characteristics that you've seen in high performing candidates over the years?
They work very hard. Not the answer you wanted, right? The person who succeeds is the person who works harder than the other guy. The person who succeeds in exam is also the person who works harder than the other guy. He doesn't tell you that. He or she. Nobody's ever succeeded who has not worked hard. If they're telling any other story, it's not true. I've learned this over years. Because you should always think, why does this person get more marks than the other guy, right? So that person worked when you didn't see them. The same goes for business world or anything else. Life is tough, so you have to work hard. Sometimes you get lucky, and like somebody joked, right? The harder I work, the luckier I get. You like that answer, right? Yeah.
Good morning, sir. My name is Samuna.
One here, okay. After that, yeah, you go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
My name is Samuna Khan from exam BM batch of 2024-2026. So a few months back in the India Today panel, you talked about making organizations more human. Unfortunately, most stakeholders are bent on as much automation as possible. How do we make sure to have a healthy balance of humans and technology that largely satisfies most stakeholders?
See, that's not a new thing, right? From the 1700s, if you take go back in history, I'm not a student of history, I started reading history more recently. The textile industry, especially in England, started introducing machinery. And there was this huge backlash among workers. And that was the first examples of trade unions coming in. Against this companies investing in this in our ground code. That continued. That continued. Every time there was a new technology being introduced, there were some people who are unhappy about it. In India, when they introduced automation in banks, everybody revolted. Today morning, I was talking to the other panelists who were there yesterday at breakfast. And they asked me whether there was a bank in exam when I was studying here. So I said, yeah, there was some kind of a bank. It used to open some days a week whenever that fellow felt like coming. And it was like a bag of cash. There was no bank here. And when you have to cash, the bank also closed. So you will go back. So there was a lot of noise on this bank automation business. We protested against ATMs and all the automation software and all that. And I had a great opportunity to spend a lot of time with Mr. Thomas, who then the CEO of ICICI Bank. I asked him, how do you handle this? So he said, I just said it has to automate. And ICICI, of course, was the first bank which invested very heavily in IT. And they changed the whole interface, right? And suddenly nobody wanted to deal with the legacy banks, and then the legacy banks were forced to do. And today, the person who works in the bank does so many other things. And I think the same thing will happen with AI and automation coming into today's world. We will find better things to do. I have no doubt that we will find something to do. Okay? The capacity of human creativity and innovation is very vast. So when some jobs go away, new jobs get created. What they are, I may not know, you may not know, but trust me, new jobs will be created, which will probably be a better use for your abilities than what you're doing today. So it's okay. So I don't think automation and investment in technology is ever going to take away jobs, provided you keep yourself updated. Okay? Many people assume that the job I joined today should last for 30 years. That's not right. It may not even last for 10 years. But that's okay, as long as you keep updated. So your studying and your learning doesn't stop when you leave this place. Please continue. You will always be relevant. You should always question, are my skills relevant? Why should somebody hire me? And that fact that people will hire you because you have 10 years experience, 12 years experience is all over. You will have to compete with somebody else who might have just come out of us. So that is going to be rare. I probably have been luckier that I have probably spent most of my career in more of the time where you kind of got benefit because of your gray hair, but it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, I'll go here first and then come back. Good.
My name is Krishna. I'm from first year India. So my question has been discussed about profit and creating impact. So the creating impact is more important, but your generation of revenue and profit, how can create such kind of impact that we have discussed right now?
No, I never said that. I never said revenue and profit is not important. It can't be the only focus on revenue and profit. So the idea is not that revenue and profit, how will you do anything else? So in business and all of you who have run companies in future, you are the custodians of the company's future. Right? And the shareholders have given you this mandate that you need to invest in the future of the company. But let's take for example. Have you heard of this company? Which is this water called Fiji water? Very popular in many airports. Now, Fiji water is the main export of Fiji items. that's not a big issue. But you know why it's a problem? The drinking water is bottled in plastic. And the world's plastic waste lands up on beach. And you know what they do? They burn it because they don't know how else to dispose that trash. So Fiji water is both the good and the bad for Fiji. And now Fiji water, because they're thinking ahead, have invested in a huge amount of money in recycling and ensuring that people don't burn the garbage when it comes back on the beaches. So this is what I meant in terms of if you don't think about the future, it might be very profitable today to run Fiji water. May not be great for the island tomorrow. One example I could. Does it make sense? So many companies are forced to this. Why should you use green? Why should you use green technology to make steel? You can happily make steel using the old technology. Nothing to do with the problem. But there are companies in the world who are investing in green technology to make steel. The steel might be a little more expensive today, but people are willing to pay for it. Tomorrow, I think people will be willing to pay for investments in these things. So you're thinking about future business models which both help you make profit, but you're also thinking about the somebody there, I first and then I come here.
Very good morning to you, sir. My name is Rohan Patel from the BM batch of 24-26. Sir, my question to you is you mentioned about leading and while leading, treating people like humans. So my question to you is in today's world where we all work in teams, there is a significant conflict between being too loose on people and making sure that the deadlines are made and they are delivering on what they are assigned to do. How do you manage those two things? Because if you're too loose, the people who are responsible for doing that thing won't be doing it. So how do you manage between those?
So that's a brilliant question, and I'm glad you asked it. Being nice to people doesn't mean allowing people to be lazy. I remember one of my bosses used to say, I am a fair person, not a nice person. I'll repeat it, I am a fair person, but not a nice person. If you slack off and if you're lazy, you will get performance appraisal which is your lazy. If you are, that means you are fair. So it's not a question of being nice. Oh, it's okay today you woke up late because you slept late yesterday. No, that's not that kind of management I'm talking about. I think as managers we have to ensure that work is done in a fair manner. That's all I meant. So that is being human. And I think you're doing that person a favor because if you don't do that, that person thinks that this is okay. This is how life works, and then they might suddenly they are out of the job. And believe me, I have met enough people who have lost jobs, so I know precisely why they lose jobs. They come and tell me, no surprise, you decided not to work and you expected somebody to pay your salary. Why? So there is always I'll give you this example of this person who came to me, so that is not name. He came to me, I have lost his job, can you please help me? I said, look, I knew you would lose it. I said, how did you know I would lose my job? I said, because you're posting on Facebook that I'm in Egypt today, somewhere else tomorrow. You thought your job was to see the world. What makes you think your manager was not watching the same shit? So that's the point. Of course, he landed a job now, but he doesn't post on Facebook anymore. I think somebody here had one first, and then I come. Don't worry, we have enough time, so I think we'll run out of questions.
Good morning, sir. My name is Arpita from Surat Rural Management. So my question is, you spoke about Satyam scam. So what is the role of human resource manager in such cases? Like what should be his role, like in terms of ethics? Should he support the insiders or the outside world?
The role of the human resource manager or any other manager is be the dog who barks. Don't be the dog who doesn't bark. There are two kinds of. Dog is probably a wrong example. The dog really barks at master. But be the person who doesn't hesitate to make noise. It doesn't matter whether you're an HR or not. I don't think HR has more responsibility versus any other manager. Whistleblowing is tough. Okay? It is not easy. I can sit here and talk and stand here and talk as much as you want. It's extremely tough. You will be ready to be sacked. But you should be ready to be sacked because everybody who has done this has done good for the company. Not easy to do at all. Sometimes it's the most toughest decision you'll ever make. deciding to go, and almost no matter what Dodd-Frank Act or Indian whistleblowing law, etc. states, the job of the whistleblower is always strong. Being ready to be sacked, sometimes we are ready to be killed. That also has happened in this country. But do you want to get up in the morning and see in the mirror that, look, I knew it, but I didn't talk about it? I'll give you an example of something, and this is public knowledge anyway, so it's not, I'm not sharing some knowledge. We had a case in my early days in Infosys that our board member was accused of sexual harassment. And then we investigated the case, we hired external lawyers, etc. We found that everybody in the office knew about it, but nobody talked. Because the office was far away, it was far away from the head office. Everybody knew. The HR guy knew about it, everybody knew. Nobody talked. It was home. Till it grew. It's always, Satya was a classic example of nobody talked. But not everybody knew. So, but the people who knew didn't talk. The accountants knew. Actually, Raj was smart in the sense he kept the knowledge very limited because the books that he took were very small set of accounts. The larger group had no idea what was happening. That also made it possible to save that company because the larger percentage of the company was fine. If everybody was bad, then it would have been a problem. So only the few group of people who were doing that creative accounting knew what was. I think somebody in the back there that
Good morning, sir. I'm Sajid Mehta from BES of 2406. I have a two-part question. Sir, in a recent study, it was found that people feel more respected and satisfied, are more loyal to the company. Would you share some insights for non-monetary incentives, such as recognition? And coming to that particular part, employee motivation, what's your take on 70-hour work per week in respect to motivation of employees?
Very different discrete things. So people who are recognized do feel better. We did a study recently, as 2 weeks back. We have a rewards program, and most companies have a reward program. So we just crunched a lot of data and came to this very interesting insight that the people who are rewarded often stay long double the time. So this is data. People like to be recognized. Right? Even if I give them a small certificate, they like it. So that is true because the data shows it. So I think it all boils down to when somebody is doing great job, call it out and say, you are doing a great job. And it's true, everybody likes to be motivated. And not only, you can't only get away with patting people on the back, of course, you need to pay them and reward them and all that. But I have found, and another parallel look is that when people are places like what they're doing, in the sense like when we found that people are involved in deep technology work or anything like that, they normally tend to stay longer. The classic example of this organization is ISRO. ISRO is not one of the top paying groups and all that, but they have outstanding mandates. Company would try to get it, but you could stay there forever. They don't need. Why they don't need? Because what they're doing is much more purposeful than what they would do. Any of them would go to job in any of the top technology companies without any trouble. But they stay there. That's a classic thing you like doing for your 70 hours a week, I work 70 hours, so no big deal. Please work. And the man who spoke about it is a close friend of mine and a mentor of mine, and he works 70 hours a week, so he can ask anybody to do anything which you are not doing. And like somebody else said, if you don't want to, go and join somewhere else. But look, I'll explain. I answered this in an interview with NDTV last week, and I don't know why you keep asking me this question. I never said anything. But I said, see, there will be periods in your work life where you have to work that much. So don't look at this week business. Look at this 1 year time span. So if you are in any company, there might be periods where you have to work very hard. You also have to figure out the other times where you won't work very hard, because as a human body, you can't continuously work 70 hours. So you need to look at it a little longer duration. So take your vacations, take your breaks. So you need to think and plan. So don't get it as a big thing. You might work 70 hours in a week. You may not need to work even 10 hours in another week. So that to balance that. And I think I would leave that message. Life is not only about working hard. It's also about taking care of yourself, taking care of your health. So you need to do that balance. How you can balance? Look at a little longer span. Don't look at a week span. It is very short. So this 70-hour week is not what is literally meant. It meant that there are times where you have to work very hard. There are times you have uh, time which is off, and it's your job. It's not the company's job to figure this out. You have to make that happen. Like I'll give you a classic example. I always get this strange request at the end of the year saying, I have 30 days leave and I can't take it, so I want to extend it. And many companies don't allow you to extend leave. What the hell were you doing? Why do you have 30 days leave? Do you have a life? So sometimes I think no, we forget this. I think and you have to force yourself to do this. So take a break, enjoy, have fun, but also work very hard when you need to work. If you slack when there is a the deliverable will not happen. Then there is no point anyway. But this debate, I think, is a data MI, and now, and this is how Murthy is close friends and anything else. Sometimes you just don't say anything, keep quiet. It doesn't mean you have to talk everything under the sun. Because see, I accept the fact that people change over the years, right? What is interesting in today's world may not necessarily be what is interesting before. Now, if I go and tell you about the difficult days of exam, you guys will be bored, right? Because first of all, you don't need to know. Secondly, it's not interesting anymore. Okay, so yeah.
Good morning, sir. My name is Ranjan from School of Growth Management. So as you have mentioned in speech that the impact of technology on businesses and also outside human element. Sir, so what do you think the technology is destroying? The technology is destroying the human element or what?
We create technology, right? So as humans, we create technology. Technology is not destroying anything. See, technology is a tool. It's how you. Technology usually is a poor master. It's a good servant. And I think technology is how we design and how we use technology is where the issue is. And let me take a for example like here. So Airbus is experimenting with a very interesting technology. How I know about it is understanding of the one. They are experimenting with a technology which can land the aircraft if the pilot falls sick. Assuming that there will be only one pilot in the future and not two. So the plane can communicate to ground, figure out which is the closest airport, and land it. So if I was in a plane, I would be very happy because today technology helps you address this. If you speak to a doctor and we use robotic surgery, you find that surgery is much less blood loss and helps you recover much faster. So what do you want it? So it's a question of what we do with that technology. For example, the automobile. Most of the modern cars today have auto braking. So if it comes too close to a collision, it will break itself. I think technology helps make life better. And sorry to use this phrase from GE. GE is slogan for a long time to make life better. So we have to view it as that and not view it with suspicion. And it's not us versus technology because we create the technology. But if you allow it to go haywire, then it is possible that it can go wrong. And the one which we need to worry about is automation coming into weapons. And that is what I would really worry about. That. If there's enough technology and the technology can decide to launch weapons, it would make the world very dangerous. So there are areas where you have to be careful. It's a rich bag, but it's question of how much we want to give power to technology versus holding it with. Let us finish and then you ask. Okay.
Hello, sir. Myself, from Executive MBA. So, there is so much going on in the world in terms of geopolitical turmoil right now. So, what will be your take on the future aspects of career for the MBA graduates?
So, see, there is something which I call the near areas of information and distant areas of information. Right? Now, I'll give you an example. So, for a while, we were experimenting with creating a lot of facilities in Eastern Europe, Romania, Poland, Ukraine, etc., etc. and we thought that was the future of where we should invest in skilled manpower. Then the conflict happened and many of those plans got changed. Now, if I was living in those countries, suddenly my career would have taken a very different path. If I was not living in this country, whether I would have benefited, probably I would have. So the whole geopolitical shift, you have to keep in mind that the fact that this can change very suddenly. And you should be prepared for that change. That's all I can give you assurance of, right? Like, for example, Israel, and we were doing a lot of work with Israel in terms of cyber security and doing some of those areas. Suddenly, we found that we can't even travel there. So you have these shifts which you have to deal with, but you can't really predict it except see the large shift. So you have to deal with what you can control. So there are areas you can control, there are areas you can't control. So MBA career, what will happen over a war? Something can happen, something may not happen. And the closest I can give you as a very interesting example. Have you heard of Jack Welch? No? This shows no matter how great a leader are, you are command So Jack Welch is the person who created General Electric to what it was. One of the world's most company which had the highest market capitalization. It was the world's biggest company. It was bigger than the GDP of many companies. The position which today Google and others hold, or Microsoft holds, was held then by General Electric. And General Electric had few key businesses. One was turbines, electricity generation. So that's what it started with. It started with Thomas Edison. And then it had to work with turbines and industrial products and all that, but they also had a very large financial and insurance business, which almost was 50% of their revenue at that point in time. Jack Welch, after almost a 20-year career building up GE2, he was considered kind of a god. In the business world, everybody talked only of Jack Welch. He was that important and relevant, and I was studying here. He did some. He tried to do various things towards the large part of it, and then he finally retired after 20-year career. And his succession itself was a big story by itself. So someday I don't have enough time today, but the whole how they chose a successor itself was a very big drama by itself. A very interesting one. So that was gave up office on 10 September. Sorry, on 9 September. He left the job as chairman of BA and retired. The successor took over on 10 September. And you know what happened on 11 September? It was 2002. Sorry, 2001. So the buildings which the planes hit were insured by GE, the aircraft engines were by GE, the planes were insured by GE, and many of the companies used to do business with. So this is what happened, this is how unpredictable the world can get. And the title of, so there's a book which his successor, Jeffrey Might wrote many years later, and you know the title? There's one good day in office. So he said, I only had one good day in office. Interesting?
Good morning. Good morning, sir. I'm Akash Mukherjee from the BM Batch 2426. So, as many of us would like to know more about your book, what made you write it, if there's any story behind writing this book.
Somewhere when you read something in life, you write a book. So, once when I used to study as the chairman of exam, the women's hostel is named after him. He was a larger than life personality, UC Mori. When he came here, this of course building did exist, so we had this session in I don't know whether it still exists. Above the mess, there was a space, right? So we hold all these sessions over there. And he told all of us don't ever write a book. So the story behind this is that I used to write regularly for newspapers, and there was this person who used to work with me. Said, "I've collected all that you wrote. Let's bind it together and print it as a book." I said, "That's not a great idea. I mean, why would you want to reprint what you not even be relevant?" So I said, "I'll write again." And then I was leaving it, so that I had 4 months of nothing to do. So I spent that time writing. I wouldn't have finished it if not. I mean, the publisher was interested. So once they signed on, I had to finish. It was like a submission. So they set deadlines and all that. Then it happened. If there was no publisher, it might have ever been written. Now it's written, done, but it was painful. I probably will not do one more. So a lot of people ask me to do one more. I said, yeah, after I retire, I read a joke book of all the things which happen in the corporate world which will write about. I can't write it now because it's happening. But yeah, many of the questions which you asked today and you want answers in little long form, some of it is there in the book. If you have nothing to do, read it. Yeah, go ahead. Somebody there also. Yeah, go ahead. And there's somebody there also.
Good morning, sir. My name is Rajat Sethi. I am from School of Rural Management. I wanted to ask, is there a way to make visionaries out of managers, or is it something very intensive to a person?
Oh, good question. I don't have a single answer to this. I don't think you can make somebody into anything. Whatever happens through the course of experiences each of us get, right? I took a particular path. I studied finance and marketing over here. I spent my first 5 years in sales to sell things. And then I did HR for the rest of the time. If I were to rewind and go back and predicted this strange path, I would have taken no. So over a period of time, you gather these experiences and you reach where you are. So each one of you will take your own path, and there's nothing wrong. Take your own path. Treat everything which comes your way as an opportunity. Now, whether you can take somebody and say, okay, I think you could be a leader, and I will put a lot of. It's not like I formed this body with a lot of knowledge and glucose, etc., and that tomorrow they'll become leaders. I think it's the experiences you get and how you deal with those experiences. Each person deals with experiences very differently. All the deal with experiences also shapes. So the things I spoke about your family, the moral compass, and the way you deal with things, I think those are a very important way in shaping leaders. And the whole concept I've learned few key ideas is you can figure out much earlier that who will potentially, you can't always be sure, but you can potentially make out who is the person who leaves the room last, who eats after everybody has eaten. That is usually the thing. So it's, I know Simon Sinek wrote a book called Leaders Eat Last, but I've heard somebody else say that leaders do eat last. But the person who says, okay, I've also seen leaders, when you say there is 1 million compensation review budget available, first they will take 500 million and put it in their pocket. So you see both kinds of leaders. Some leaders achieve greatness, others lead. So you get both sides. The corporate world is full of such examples. But can you make somebody a leader? I don't know. I think they just evolve their own as it goes. So a lot of, I'm saying bad things because there's a huge billions of dollars being put into leadership development. So I'm probably pouring water on their bottle. Just walk into any place, right? Look at the amount of books which say how to be a leader. Somebody is there. You have the mic, you go ahead, then I'll go to the next.
Good morning, sir. Saurabh this side from Executive MBA Batch 2425. So my question is, in the context of today's artificial intelligence and generative AI, organizations have started shifting towards more on technology based. Since people have worked more than a decade, also they have started losing jobs since there is an advancement of this new era of technology. So my question is, as a global leader, how will you see as challenging, like managing people or managing technology, which is more challenging?
The only thing which I think is important is how do you use things in this world? How do you create a culture of lifelong learning? And we let's look at it this way, right? So when most people finish business school, they assume that this was the last study experience they would have. I remember my foolish batch actually after the last exam bought all the notes in the bonfire outside the hostel. It was a nice one. Lot of notes. Was it just give you printed notes? You didn't hear so. So it was assumed that now you will get into this world, you will get paid every year, you will get an increase, you will finally that is over. Every year you might run the old books, but you will get new books figuratively. And this concept of lifelong learning. Whatever you know today will not be relevant 10 years now. It may not even be relevant 5 years now. How do you keep up is that you have to learn. How do you learn? You have to force yourself to learn. So the people who say that my job is no longer relevant are the people who haven't kept up with what is happening in the world. Now, would you go to a doctor who doesn't keep up with the latest drugs that are happening? You wouldn't go. Right? Why would you employ a manager who is not keeping up? So you have as much responsibility to your profession as the doctor. You will not go to a doctor who is not keeping up. I mean, there is a new drug available to treat you, but he is prescribing what is there 10 years back. How will you go there? Same thing holds true for you. I mean, your profession is no different from that. If you are not up to date, you are gone. So the worry I have is not enough people have kept up to date. So I do see a lot of interest. So when I talk to sometimes I talk to these programs where you have people who have spent 15, 20 years coming back to refresh. There is generally a desire to learn, but you kind of find it difficult. So you have to do it now. So don't stop learning. That's my whole message which I give to you. How you do it, each person does it differently. I mean, possibly you can use any method which works. Then if you don't do that, then you will complain that my job doesn't exist, machine has come from this. I don't think artificial intelligence or generative AI is a problem. That is not the problem. It is just one of those things. Tomorrow there is a diffusion-based models which are coming in, generative-based models, large language models. So that is a very unknown phase right now. I don't think AI. Don't worry about AI. AI is just what you call people are doing scaremongering. It is technology. The technology which might displace you may not exist today. Think about that. It might not have been invented. Think about that. But AI is just one of those things. AI will come, AI will go. Generative AI is, don't worry about generative AI. I have not seen any use case which is going to cause that to be a big worry. But there is a technology which I may not have seen. You may not have seen. There is a lot of good stuff happening in the startup world. A lot of brilliant stuff. Some of it will work, most of it will fail, but it's okay. But things are happening. Yeah. Where's the mic? Where? There's somebody there?
Good morning, sir. This is Sanjana from BES 2426. Sir, in your speech, you mentioned about drawing an ethical map for yourself. So, can you please throw some light on it, considering in the corporate world, we often find ourselves in a situation where constantly competing with our colleagues who are often our friends. So, can you please throw some light?
You are not competing with anyone. So I want to take care of this business of competition. You're probably competing here. That's the maximum you will compete. The person who joins the company, or who, suppose there's a group of 20 of you, or maybe let's say 10 of you join the same company. After that, all of that. Can you answer that question? Think about it. Not only you, anybody else can answer. So, the 10 people who joined. 2 years later, Professor Ramana will come and say, who was first? How will you tell? Yeah. That's the wrong answer. Again, wrong answer. No. This is a very lateral thinking answer. You have to think laterally.
The person will be happiest.
Brilliant. What's your name? So don't worry about competition. Worry about, are you delivering value that this company recognizes you and wants to keep you? And are you happy with what you're doing? That's all you ask for yourself. Everything else will fall into place. Sounds a little preaching answer, but that's true. Because companies are full of unhappy people. I don't know why. Don't be one of those additions to this is not okay, that is not okay, manager is useless, I'm not getting enough money. My friend who joined other company already vice president. Are you happy? Are you fulfilling, delivering value? Do they want to keep you? That is what you should ask. And then your competition ends the minute you leave this place. Here also does not really matter because all of you I'm sure will get placed somewhere or other. So you'll all be okay. At least that is not a very worrying problem today. You might get a little less money, it's okay. I'll tell you my own experience. The people who were successful in my batch did not get the best jobs on campus. They did not even get the highest paid money on campus. Because people take their own paths. There are many people you think are very successful at that point in time who may not be successful 10 years, 15 years down the line. You don't know what's going to happen. Life is little unpredictable. So be prepared for it. So be happy with what you're doing. As long as you're delivering value, it's fine. There's no good company, bad company. You hope is what you do. Thanks for the answer.
So you talked about Fuji and the sustainability part. So, sir, in India, when there's a very high competition, during my internship, I found that the companies understand that certain things are important for future, but CEOs sometimes are not ready to take a hit on their top line, just so that they can be benefited in say 5 or 6 years down the line. So how can we as leaders learn that how to manage the long-term goals without taking a hit to the current ones? Because those are the only metrics on which you will be evaluated in company.
So that's a good question, and Professor Ravana probably will add to. Maybe you should add to my answer. See, one of the reasons why this happens is that there's not an India-specific problem because there's this short-term versus long-term issue in the corporate world. All of us, we included, are measured on what we perform every quarter to the market. And it's actually very tight. Market is very unforgiving. If you produce even a slight drop in revenue or margin every year, they have a stop. And no CEO or exec leader of a company can ignore this. And this concept of this putting short-term performance versus long-term goals has been a very long, very old problem in the corporate world. And the reason for that is all of us are responsible, right? Whoever, any of us who hold equity in any company, kind of demands this kind of performance without realizing long term. But any person, and Warren Buffett is one of the classic examples of this, is look at long term performance of the company versus the short term. If more and more of the investor community drives long term performance, then this behavior will change. But unfortunately, nobody seems to be doing it. And that is why you see what you saw. Now, whether I can go and like Guruji tells you, don't worry about profit and your stock will get big, no, I can't do. Neither can you. So we have to deal with this duality or a complexity till we figure out, or for example, how are you doing on ESG? Suddenly ESG has become a very big investment thing. But people are driving again, daily very bullish numbers to satisfy investors. So this whole concept of the larger investment, what are we driving long term versus the short term is one of the reasons why you are seeing this behavior being like that. No? Thank you. But you also see the same thing in companies which are not public, which I found strange. Even a non-public company does this. So. Done? Anybody, right?
Thank you so much, sir, for the extremely enriching and eye-opening talk. As all of us here gear up for the big corporate world, I think we now all can agree that we've become a lot more aware of not just ourselves, but also about the evolving concept of leadership and how we can learn the art of balance and become the architects of our own lives. Now, I would like to request our respected moderator, Sir, Professor Francis Castellino, to spare a few words and insights on our enriching talk today.
Well, it's a tough act to follow when somebody so eloquent speaks the way he did from his heart. When we reached out to Richard for this session, and of course over the last 2 days, yesterday and today, my main message to him, and which he gave to you, I hope, is that if somebody from these very portals, from these corridors and everything else, the same food in the mess, okay, can reach the levels that he and others of his batch and others of the previous batches have, then any one of you could be exactly here 20 years later coming and talking to the students at that time. So that was the main message which I think he gave you, and I hope you understand that there are many subtle things which he left with you in the speech that he gave. He gave examples, he gave you a lot of thought, but underlying all that was the message of being ethical, being human. These are some messages which only an Alan coming back, trying to give you something which will make your life a little better can do. And I hope these messages are carried beyond the walls of XIM and that you carry them to the corporate world where you soon will be, and then are able to give back in much the same manner as we have. Thank you so much for your kind words. You've been an inspiration to many, and I hope you continue to be that way for XIM students going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks and deep gratitude to Richard Lobo, sir, for his words of motivation and wisdom. I'm sure our students gained invaluable insights from your thoughts and experiences on redefining possibilities. I would like to thank Professor Francis Castellino, sir, for his constant support to the Business Excellence Summit team and making the session structured and helping us get the best out of it. I would like to request the Business Excellence Summit teams to please come forward to facilitate our dignitaries. Now, I would like to request Professor Francis Castellino, sir, to present a token of appreciation for the speaker for his contribution toward this summit and for making it a special one. Now, with utmost excitement, I would like to request Richard Lobo, sir, to present to Professor Francis Castellino, sir, the copy of Human at Work.
Okay, so the book is not out, it will be out tomorrow, so technically I'm giving my copy. So, but many of the things which I didn't finish, you'll find answers there. I'm not selling the book in any way. That's not the point, but the point is there's only that much you can talk, right? So much of this, and exam is, I just wanted to leave the message that exam is one of the places where poets is thinking, because much of these are answers to questions that you get in sections like these. And I'm hoping that some of them will find relevant to the pursuit you do. So that's the whole story. So I'll leave this book. I have written it to the entire community, but of course, Professor has been kind enough to say they have ordered more for the library, so you can read it there, or you can, it's not very expensive, you can pick it up yourself on Amazon. So
I accept this on behalf of all of you. And as I said, we've already ordered copies for the library when I came to know that you've written this book. I hoped to actually give you a surprise by asking you to sign on those books when they. Little did I know that they would be out after you leave here. So in other words, we are allowing him to publish it tomorrow.
Now, I would like to call upon the members of the Alumni Committee to present the alums with a token of gratitude and to launch the annual Alumni magazine, Udmai. Now that is not all. We have a special surprise for Sir. I would like to thank the audience for keeping the session engaging and showing their enthusiasm towards the summit. We would like to thank the our media partners and media houses covering the event, the Alumni Committee, Career Advisory Services, Illuminatics, the Media and PR Cell, Excellence, the Photography Committee, and other committees that have made this event possible. And finally, the students for making this an engaging and entertaining experience. Now, I would like to request the audience to stay back as the speaker takes our leave.